Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another video. This time, I wanted to talk about the 300 wish free standard banner character. Now, 300 warps. Um, now I'm getting very close to getting those 300 warps, so I just wanted to talk about that really quick. Um, I think it breaks down into three different you know reasons or like selection criteria depending on your account. um it's basically I'll just break it down like in the beginning. It's basically your end game content progression, which teams you have, and which roles, which teams you have or which roles you're looking to fill. And then lastly, it's more like who do you want. um because for example, if all you want is Bronya or Himiko, then forget all the advice, just go for it. If you want Yanking, go for it. You don't have to uh, go for meta or like whatever your account exactly needs. Like if you like a character, you go for them, right? So let's talk about the different characters, their pros and cons, and which accounts or which teams they'd be useful for. So let's start with Himiko. Himiko is a fire erudition unit, and she can blast on her skill, and I believe she could hit all enemies with her ultimate. Yeah, all enemies with her ultimate. And yeah, she blasts her skill, and her talent. Her talent is all enemies also. So yeah, she's like built for pure fiction. So if you're a little slacking on pure fiction like I am, maybe she's a good pick for you. Um, in other content, she's not the best, but she's a good breaker, fire element breaker, and also she's great in AOE. So those are her strengths. Um, not in my opinion, not really the best character to pick. Um, but yeah, so what we'll do is we'll do like an objective rating on each character at the end. I'll give you my opinion on who you should pick, and I'll actually explain who I'm gonna pick. So let's go to Welt. So he's a Nihility imaginary unit. I'd have to check the character roster, but I don't think there's another Nihility imaginary unit. So he's kind of unique in that role. Um, he does like a random kind of skill blast attack where his subsequent hits can hit random enemies. So it's like a slight AoE, which is good against Aventurine bosses. If you ever face that in MOC or other modes. His ultimate does hit all enemies, and the greatest thing about him is he gets to imprison them for one turn, which basically is action delay, and also they lose a turn. So some crazy team builds have him as the sustain instead of actually having a healer or a shielder. So it's interesting. He's very unique. So if you he doesn't fulfill a particular niche because his kit is so different. But if you're looking for another Nihility, say for like Acheron, he does pretty good. Or if you're looking for another sub DBS, that's kind of his role. The whole sustainless runs on MOC with him as a sustain is kind of like really end game kind of stat. So I don't really recommend it for newer players. But if that's what you're into, go for it. Now, Bronya is basically the pick everyone should make if you get to 300 pulls and you did not get her, because basically she's just broken, especially for like hypercarry builds. Hypercarry is where you have one DPS and you just buff them to the max, right? And then you just um, use characters like Bronya or Ting Yun to just buff them, and then the DPS does all the damage, right? Um, so what she has is two support abilities. Her skill gives action advance, so the character you choose gets more damage and can act immediately. And then her ultimate gives you attack boost and crit damage boost, which is really strong. So she's an excellent support. Probably one of the best in the game until more of the broken supports came out, like Sparkle and Ron May and Robin. So she was really, like, early in the game, she was really broken. I think she still fills kind of a niche where if you have a hyper carry, like for example, like Yanching or like Don Hang 5 star or Jing Yun, like those kind of characters who want to do all the damage. She's still, the best for them. But you know, if you don't have her, and the other thing is, her eidolons are really strong too. So even if you have her, getting her E1 gives you 50% chance to recovering a skill point, and even her E2 gives the target, which is potentially your DPS of the skill, a speed boost. So she is a really great pick, even for Eidolon 1 and Eidolon 2. If you don't know who to pick, for your 300 to pick. Japhar is kind of in a weird state, whereas, he is an ice preservation unit, and he used to be pretty solid until, the 5 star limited sustains came out, like um, Aventurine. I mean, Aventurine completely outclasses him in my opinion. But then also the newer ones like Linksha and also Fujuan, like all of them kind of just do his job better. So if you already have them, then there's no real point in using your 300 pull on him. I was kind of like in the dilemma of getting him or not, because I have Aventurine on one side and then I kind of have 4 star sustains on the other side. So I would see like that as the only case where you could be like, oh yeah, I want Japard because his shields are pretty strong, but they are stuck to his ultimate, which is like a pro and a con. Where if ever you need a shield, it's kind of like on demand. You just throw his ultimate up, and you have his shield for 3 turns. But also at the beginning of the big beginning of the battle, if you're not able to use your technique, um, his technique to start the battle, because his technique um, gives you the shield for 2 turns. Then you're not able to get a shield to start the battle. But otherwise, like, yeah, look, if you don't have a good sustain, I think he's the best pick. Sorry, Bailu. The biggest problem with um, Japard and Bailu is they can't heal you from status effects. So that is their biggest downside, unfortunately. Um, Moving on to Clara, and this is the character I'm thinking of getting on my 300th pull, because I don't have Yun Li, and I think Clara as a tank character. So she's physical destruction, but she acts more like a tank. She counterattacks everything. Um, I think with her, she has a very unique role, and I think I don't have anyone that fills this role on my roster. So like a counterattacker. So I think I will go for Clara. Um, and what teams would want Clara? I mean, so she could run as the main DPS. Basically, you run like a Tingyun. I wouldn't say a Brony, like a Tingyun and like a Ruan Mei to kind of buff her damage output. She doesn't necessarily need more turns. Just needs more damage and energy to spam her ultimate and uh, spam her ultimate and make sure her damage and attack is high, so that every time she counters, she's doing a lot of damage. And then you have sustain that keeps her HP up, and she's good to go. Um, so definitely the most um, interesting pick in my opinion because her kit, just like Welt, is pretty unique. Um, but yeah, moving on to Yanching. So Yanching is arguably the worst character here. I mean, I have him as uh, E1 in my game, so I will not be pulling for him. But basically, he's the only straight up DPS on the banner. So if you're looking for a hyper carry DPS, I mean, I would not recommend him. But okay, he's not recommended because he's very difficult to build. Um, basically, he has insane crit buffs. He also gets like you see here, he gets like a slight crit damage buff. Um, he's single target because he's a hunt character. Um, but and then he also gets a chance to do a follow up attack. But his whole thing is see at the bottom when Yanching receives damage, the Soul Steel Sync effect will disappear. So what does that mean? He can't get hit at all. So so either you run like a Japard, um, well it says receives damage, so he can get hit, but he can't take damage. So you either run a Japard or you run an Adventurine with him to you know make sure he doesn't take any damage, and then he's kind of strong actually. With his buffs up, he's actually really strong. But if you don't have an Aventurine or a Japard, what do you do? I mean, I guess if you had a Clara or a Yun Li, they could kind of like tank for him, but it's not like a perfect science. Um, but yeah, he's very niche character to pick, so that's why he's kind of like at the bottom of most people's rankings. I'm eventually going to build him, but yeah, he's very niche and very difficult to use. But if you're into, like I said, if he's your favorite, go for him. But it will be a difficult road to make him strong. Um, and then Bailu, who was my first 5 star on the standard, um, in my opinion, is good early game, but kind of drops off late game. I mean, I haven't continued to build her. Like I said, she lacks status effect clear, which is kind of huge on sustains, especially healers. Her thing is she can heal other random allies with her skill, and her ultimate gives this status effect called Invigorate. And where can I read about that? Um, okay, so you get additional healing um, on other turns. She could also revive a fallen ally one time per battle, but how often does that come up? And I have to test this in MOC, but um, if the ally comes back, does it still count as the ally got downed? I'm not sure. But, you know, a one-time revive per battle can be useful, but it can't be the only thing that she's good for, especially if she can't clear status effects. She does do a slight character's invigoration receive. 10% less damage. So there is like a damage mitigation here, which is nice. Does she have anything else? Vigorous can trigger one more time. Oh, okay. She can increase their HP by 10% for 2 turns when you overheal them, which is nice. So she has some, you know, she has some interesting parts of her healing kit, but it's really not the best. Obviously, if you're missing a sustain, it's really between Japard and Bailu. I mean, I guess if you have an Aventurine and you don't want a shielder on the other side, you could definitely go for Bailu, but not the best pick. I mean, the limited sustains blow her out of the water, unfortunately. Um, so that's like the general overview of the standard banner 5 stars. Like I said, I will most likely be going for Clara because she has a unique kit, and I already have Bronya. Um, I already have Welt, and I think I'll just go for a different sustain instead of Japard. See, the thing that's tricky about this the standard pick, like you think it's inconsequential because like these 5 stars aren't that great. Like, what's the point? Like, just pick anyone, right? Well, unfortunately, in gacha games like this one, Honkai Star Rail, um, you may never get the chance to get one of these other characters. So, in my opinion, you should just pick who you like at the end of the day because you may never get one of these. Like, let's say you're missing Yanching, for example, and you just wanted to try him on your account. If you want him, just pick him because you could get like 10 Japards, just for example, and you can never get a Yanching because it's all random, right? There's no guarantee to get each and every 5 star standard character. So honestly, just pick who you want, um, and that's why I'm picking Clara because if I don't get Japard, too bad. And if I don't get Himiko, too bad. I mean, I'm probably gonna go for Firefly anyway. Um, but if I never get Clara, that would be unfortunate because then I can never try her out on different teams. You know. The other thing I wanted to quickly touch on was the um, the Starlight Exchange. Um, um, Geez, what do you call these weapons? Light cones, right? So some you can also get these, from the standard pulls. And fortunately, this is not a one-time, selection because every time you get more of this currency, Undying Starlight, then you can pick more. I mean, 600 takes a while to accumulate, but but you could pick more of these light cones. And I just wanted to briefly touch on these. Um, so, Night of the Milky Way. Night of the Milky Way is an erudition light cone, but it's really only um, for break efficient characters. The Clara light cone, I feel like this is really only good for 2 characters, and that's Clara and Blade. I don't think any other characters really benefit from this. Um, Maybe Arlan. But yeah, it's a very niche light cone, and if you're a Clara fan, go for it. If you have Blade and you need a good light cone, this is a good choice. Um, but the battle isn't over. This is arguably the best light cone available. Um, Increases the energy generation rate and regenerates a skill point every ultimate. every 2 uses of the ultimate. So this is pretty solid, and this is probably what I'm going to pick because I already have Bronya. This, in the name of the world, is pretty solid for Welt, but Welt has other options. So this is not really, an end-all be-all for him. If you have it, it's nice. If you don't, there's other better options. This, however, is a really strong Lycone for preservation units. Increases the wearer's defense by 24%. The effect hit rate is whatever. When the wearer is attacked, increase their defense by an extra 24% until the end of the turn. So it's an extra 24%, and then another 24. It's almost an extra 50% defense um, every time they're attacked. So that's really strong. Um, yeah. So if you have Japhar, you know, and you like building him, go for this. And if you have Venturing, I think this is a good option if you're not using like universal trend of the market, which is a specific one for like Acheron teams. So Sleep Like the Dead, I feel like this is like one of the worst um, Lycones here. Because the effect isn't that great. Because this effect can only trigger once every 3 turns. I just don't feel like this is worth it. And also, Bailu's Abundance Lycone isn't worth it either. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that really quick. Like basically, if you're looking for specific ones, Japards, Bronyas, and Claras are really strong for those respective characters. Um, that's all I really wanted to say. I hope that helps you out, especially in your um, standard banner, selection choices. Is It is really difficult to make this choice, especially like I said. Um, you may never get one of these characters. So if there's a character you really want, go for it. Um, yeah, I hope it helped you out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.